What are the unique advantages that a woman has in the entrepreneurial game that maybe a man doesn't have?
Well, we look different. So,
Right.
for sure, there's just not as many of us. And so I always remember when they were like, how was it being a woman in finance? Like, I'm almost like, they're like, where did he touch you? I'm like, I really never had that experience. It was great for me.
Right.
We had like Tom and Brad and Chad, and they all wore gray suits and looked really similar. And I got to show up in whatever I was wearing, and I had long hair and I looked different. So if nothing else, just, a bunch of blue crayons, a red crayon, I stood out.
Yeah.
And so, one, that's an unfair advantage. I'll take it. And two, I think, if you can, as a woman, lean into the thing that everybody is leaning out of today, which is this, hey, let's fight on ideology and gender and whatever. And you can just say, like, I don't know, that just doesn't sit right with me. I kind of think it's BS. You're rare. The other thing I think is true, too, is like, man, there's a lot of women these days. This is a personal pet peeve, but like women run companies that are like pink everything and bedazzled and, curly Q cursive.
Yes.
It's like, why? Why do we have to play like that game? Why can't I just say I'm a CEO? I don't have to mention what kind of anatomy I got going on prior to that. And so I think those are real unfair advantages. One, you look different than most CEOs because there aren't that many of us. And then two, you get to say, like, I don't care about point one. And so let's just like go and create the best products and serve more clients than anybody else. And if we can do this, then we will prove that more female CEOs is cool.
Yeah.
And then, we can do it all together. And I think what'll happen in the next, it's already starting to happen, but, men have, there's a massive movement in the U.S. right now, I think, around male loneliness. I think there's a huge movement in the U.S. about unemployment. I mean, Nicholas Eberstadt is an incredible researcher, if you know Nick, all about the work epidemic in working age, able-bodied men.
7 million of them, he has said.
That's right. So, and they feel so isolated and non-purpose filled that they have opted out of the workforce. And I think we need to get those people back to work. And so I actually think there'll be like two next epidemics or two next movements. And one will be we need to get men working again and back into the fray and believing that men are really important and purposeful and strong men are incredible. And you guys should never have to apologize for your race or your gender. That's ridiculous. And then simultaneously, I think we have an epidemic, and we talked about this a little bit beforehand, of women who were told to girl boss and doesn't matter, you don't need no man, and you can wait to get pregnant, until whenever you want. And that's not true. And so I think the next epidemic will be women kind of asking themselves, was it worth it? Did I wait too long? It is hard to get pregnant, and it's harder than I thought it was going to be. And it's okay if I want to stay home with the kids. Just like it was okay if I went to work. It's all okay.
Right.
And so I hope we come back around to sanity in both of those things.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're very strong as a female, but you're not anti-man. Am I right?
That's right. Well, it's going to be kind of ridiculous to be anti-man or woman. It's like we have both chromosomes. Like, like I got both. I got a man, I got a woman. They did this thing. It came together. They made me.
Right.
Kind of hard to come into existence without both sides of the equation. Right. It just like rationally makes no sense to me for people, like this idea of like patriarchy and whatever. I think that's what happens when we have too much time on our hands and we start
looking for something to be angry about.
Yeah, something.
How do you
or
lead?
Identity.
But I do think you have a unique perspective, and I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Because you how many people do you lead technically?
Oh,
Underneath,
gosh.
you got a lot of companies.
We have a lot of companies. I really should know that. I mean, our companies have hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe close to 1,000.
Okay, great. And so you got a hierarchy. Presumably, you lead men.
Yep.
I think it'd be great for women to hear. I'd love my daughter to hear this.
Yeah.
That's primarily why I'm asking this question. What have you learned about being a strong female and leading men effectively? What's the key?
Well, I think, if you want to be a good leader, you got to remember that good leaders actually only really care about their people progressing in one way or another. So like your team will love you, not if they like you, and not if you pander to them. But a good leader is really one who their people feel like they care about them and they feel like you know more about them than even they know about you. And I think it's the same with audience. Like if I go on stage and it's the Cody show and I talk all about me and what I want to do, that's kind of uninteresting for the audience. I think unless you're like if a fun thing would be like go to YouTube right now and go to like a Diary of a CEO podcast, Stephen Bartlett, and look at the top 20 podcasts that he has. And then look at the top 50. And you'll notice the top 20 and the top 50. In the top 50 are a bunch of celebrities, but they're not the top 20. Why? Because in the top 20, it's all about you, the audience. In the top 50, it's all about them, the celebrity. I did this, I did that. So if you're going to lead a man or a woman, they have to believe that you care about them and that you care more about them and you know more about them than they even do about you. Because it's not about you as the leader. And so with men in particular, I've found there are real differences, such as they need to feel respected. By and large, I've found men want to feel respected, women want to feel heard and cared for. Difference between the two. These are gross generalizations, but often true. And so as a woman, sometimes I do have to be careful to make sure that I'm not belittling a man in a way that maybe a woman wouldn't quite see it that same way. There's a difference, I think, in how you communicate to both genders. And simultaneously, I think for men, they want to feel like you don't care that you're a woman. You're not trying to power play them. You're not trying to say that they're less than. You're not trying to do the, hey, all the women are going to go do this activity and the men are going to do this activity. And they have to feel like you're worthy of leading them. I mean, most people do not want to work for somebody that they don't respect who doesn't respect them. And so I think a lot of women try to play this game of, they don't earn the respect, they expect it. And that's just not the case. And, you know, you guys have hundreds of years of physiology saying that strength is what leads to leadership. And so if a woman comes on board and she's not very strong, and by strong I don't mean mean, or I don't mean, you know, too intense or too aggressive. I just mean like certain in the belief and care about their people and have the ability to help the person become better at the end of their time with you. Then I think I've had just as much fun leading men as I have women. And in fact, I don't almost think about it at all. But I do think there are also jobs that are good for men and women. Like for instance, in content, I think for a platform like Instagram, let's say, there's a real benefit to having some women involved because it is a visual, aesthetically pleasing platform. And there's a preponderance of women on there. Whereas if you are going to run one of my painting or window cleaning companies. Well, almost all of the employees in both of those companies are men, and most of the commercial contracts they get are with men. And so let's be honest about it. That's my thought.
Yeah, I love that. That's really refreshing.